The information contained within this podcast is general in nature and should not be construed as advice nor substituted for qualified professional counseling or mental health therapies. If you are genuinely in need of deeper assistance, please seek the advice of qualified professionals. Welcome to the Unpacking Grief podcast with Drew Marriott and myself, Ian P.F. McDonald. Join us as we delve into what grief is, how it can differ for each of us, and how we can explore techniques for healing and growing to help both you and those around you in processing grief.
So what episode is this? This is 4?
Yes.
4. Excellent. Wonderful. How are you? I love the shirt.
Thank you. It's Deanna picked it out here. We had some reimagining of the set, and
I like
we
it.
wanted to add some. We brought Monty in and a candle, and we got a picture here of Zach and I from a benefit for Children's Hospital, black tie tailgate. I forget what year that they supported, but yeah, we had ourselves a good time there, and I think that this will be a good little place to display different things week after week. So yeah, how about you? I see some you had some changes over there too.
Yeah,
a creepy shadow over your head.
Oh, what is that? Oh, this
You
one.
get a little. You get you got it has the bear with the shadow.
I think
So
this one...
it peeks over your head a little.
Oh, right.
It gives you
I
the
think
ears.
That's a lion. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's a paper mache lion.
And it's
Doesn't
beautiful.
It does look like a bear, doesn't it?
That's
Well,
right.
Margot was moving it around today, and she said that some of the painting is actually coming off. So
Oof.
when I heard that, I was thinking, oh, okay, that's a shame. And she's like, but then I get to paint it whatever I want. And I was like, there you go. There you go. Brilliant. But it's been a big week. It's been a big old week. We had our first podcast episode go out, and we got a great response. And I believe that you spoke to one of your friends.
Yeah. I was a good friend of mine from another life, an ex-work husband. He wanted to reach out and give me a belated birthday wishes, and unfortunately has been sacked by a lot of grief and life and circumstances, and lost 3 very close family members recently, and still kind of is in the process of mourning his father, and it's been a long time. And so he was not aware that we were working on this project. So I got to tease it a little bit with him, but it was a really great conversation. And I felt like we were in session, just the way the ideas and how he would say something. I mean, I'm very proud of him. First of all, because he sought the help that he needed. He's working with a therapist, and he's doing some things physically for himself, and going to the gym. And it's something where he took a lot out of our conversation, and he felt he was almost moved to tears by what's going on, and he had a couple aha moments. When I shared that my dad passed away in 98, and it was only recently that I mourned him in an organic, just kind of outpouring of emotion, and that was a reframing of a relationship, there in a visceral sense, and knowing that, on the other side, he has taken Zachary on and is watching over him and in his work. It's just there's a level of appreciation and love that I had not found before, and it's brought us closer together. So I did tell him, because he's not in a place where he thinks that's attainable right now. He speaks to the therapist. He's like, let's talk about my dad. Let's talk about my dad. But she has, she's the pilot of that ship, and he's anxious. And I said, listen.
So he's trying to rush the process, essentially.
Yeah. He's like, I wish I could talk to my dad and ask him some advice. And, I just kind of pulled him aside and said, well, if you want, the next time something like that happens, don't put too much thought into it, but find a quiet place and breathe, and reach out to him and ask for some guidance. And I put my money where my mouth is. I love that man. He's a good friend, and we've been through a lot together. He's been great for me personally, and just bros, friends. I told him, I said, listen, man, I love you. Do you trust me? You will get what you're looking for. May not be immediately, but if you trust and you do it, I promise you, you'll get where you want to be. So it was moving, but it caused me to think, and I want to see how if you've seen similar phenomenon. But I'm getting calls, and I'm having conversations outside. I mean, topically the same, but outside of this forum, and they've just been invigorating for me because they've listened to the podcasts, others. They've had a chance, and then they share. And another big thing that I've learned is that it prompts dialogue.
Yeah.
Dialogue
Yeah.
in the home, which is great. So there are a lot of things that are happening, and it's good. It's just good energy. Are people reaching out to you?
Well, I mean, I always bump into new people every day. It's around 20 or so guaranteed new faces, and the conversation goes where it is. But, the podcasters come up here and there, and usually when it's, what do I do? And I told them what I'm working on. It's a new project. And, one of the people said, wow, well, you're always going to have people to bring on the show, aren't you? And I said, yeah, because we really all have experienced this. And if we haven't experienced it, sadly, wish I could say otherwise, it is just going to be a matter of time. I remember as a child, I hadn't lost anyone. And when my granddad had passed, I didn't really understand what it meant. And I feel like some part of me was in the spirit world still, and I was like, what's the big deal? He's fine, But, I remember everyone being sad, and I remember being a child looking around being like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be acting like these people. So I feigned sadness when I just wasn't feeling it. And it's not that I didn't miss him, and now when I look back, I have that sadness. But, at the time I was like, it's not how I feel, right? So if you've been lucky enough to not have to face it, it sucks. It's a challenging of everything you feel to be permanent, and we don't ever really recognize that we treat people as fixtures in our life. And you can absolutely get that as a confirmation when you look at how some people treat their family members. They're short, sharp, rude, offer no patience. They yell at each other. They tell each other to go to hell. And I see people treating family members in a short way, and it saddens me because I think, wow, you don't realize the gift that you've got in having family, and family is one of these things that if you have a great relationship with it, these people are along for the journey, and they're bound by blood, which is not just a saying. It's literally, you came from the same origins, you have the same shared experience, and you have the similar DNA. So you really are sharing an experience with these people. And I think anyone who does experience grief, it's at that point that you realize you need resources, and that's what I hope we're creating here.
No, indeed. Indeed.
Kind of took off on a tangent there.
No. I mean, this is the beauty of it, right? I mean, we go where we're called, and speaking of going where we're called, today, Deanna and I, we were, today was just, again, a day of invigoration. And this morning, after coffee, she just grabbed me and said, listen, can we step up and spend some time in Zach's room? I was like, yeah, absolutely. She felt the call, and we answered and spent some time in there together. And it always looks and feels different. There's a comfort there, and so on. And she is really gifted in a sense where she sees full body apparition sometimes, and she's seen him sitting on the step, and she is highly attuned to his energy, sharing the same primal triad. But we, as we were getting ready to leave, I just decided to open Zach's closet door and, see what I might have missed, see what gifts might jump out at me. And there was a shoebox, New Balance, kind of in the back of the closet. And I said, well, let me grab this. There were small paintings that he had started on cards, and they were on an easel, and that kind of started the process. So I pulled that out, and it had his painting, and it also had the his paints on the easel. It was a small round thing that he had used in the painting. So we put that together on the easel. We brought it down. We had that displayed in a foyer. And Deanna had really started painting again recently. And we each did a piece, and she started working on a piece for a friend. And, she was looking for a certain brush, and she was looking for some inspiration and confidence in that process. And opened up the box, a Wawa bag full of paints, a lot of the same brand and colors, choices that kind of resonate with her. 2 sets of purple and yellow acrylic
It's our
paints as
colors.
well.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was just one of those amazing moments where it's like, okay, well, you asked.
Yeah. And I think we talked about Laura Lynn Jackson's book, Signs. And for any of you who you hear Drew talking about how he sees and senses and feels the signs, if you want to get better at that, check out that book. It's been a shortcut for my process and everyone else who I've spoken to who reads it. It just kind of helps, get your mind in a place where you can start to be attuned to what the signs are for you, because there's no two people who are going to experience them the same way. There's no symbol that is the symbol that they're going to send from the other side. And it's really a personal thing, because the relationship that you have with your lost ones, it's personal. No one else has that relationship with them that you did. We all know so many people, and you relate to none of them the same as the others. It's always personal. So if you are wondering what we're talking about with those signs, get that book. It's called Signs, and it really clears some things up if you're not already in that space.
And I would also offer this, and it's not always the case that your sign is happens in a silo, in a vacuum, where it's you and it's the sign and that's it. It's so many encounters where somebody else is bringing you the sign. They don't know it. But they are trusting. They are trusting.
Happens all the time to me.
And even in the reverse, where it's like you offer something, it's just the transaction of energy and love in these simple tasks of hey, here's a photo, and then it prompts.
They go where they're heard the most. So, if you're in a moment of really being in your head and in your stress, you may not be as responsive to the signs. Whereas your brother or your sister or whoever brings those, things to reality, it's transactional. Water flows where water flows. It just knows where the easiest flow is. And all life, I believe, responds like water. It's energy. So if you're being a closed door, they're just going to go somewhere else and see if they can get it through to you that way.
And again, a very serendipitous experience for me when that book, Signs, was gifted by you guys. In the book, Zach spent a lot of time in our detached garage in the back, kind of out of the way, a secondary kind of space to hang. And as a, basically a young man, a young adult, he purchased some purple, markers, and he just decided to write in big block letters, "Just Kids," when you open the door on the Tyvek paper backing, because it's not finished over there. But imagine my surprise when I get to a page in the book where they talk about a song, I believe, maybe Janis Joplin, and it's called "Just Kids."
It's incredible. It's like he pre-planted all of these.
It's still Easter eggs. It's amazing, and you have no idea. And you really why try and ruin?
Yeah.
Not the trick. Why ruin the magic?
Yeah, and this actually, you were talking to me about him knowing and other ways that it's possible that he knew. Can you share that with the audience? Because that was very interesting.
Yes. With regard to impermanence of life, and one of the things that we want to tackle a little bit today, he was very into tattoos and body art. And he had 2 tattoos in particular that stick out. And one was a quote by Michelangelo: "There's no greater harm than that of time wasted." So all these time references and watches. He had an affinity for watches. and things of that nature. So that was the first one. The second one, and even more compelling, again, Impermanence of Life, the opposite side of the same coin there is Memento Mori, is a tattoo that he had done on his left shoulder, which is death is inevitable. And it's deep. It's deep for a 19, 20-year-old to seek out this art. But what was even more of and not surprising, but speaks to not just his higher self, but his character in this physical realm. We were during an Alzheimer's walk in memory of my father. He passed away in 1998. I actually have a photo of he and Zach at 19 that I posted up on our Instagram.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. The Instagram is Unpack Grief Pod for anyone who hasn't already followed us, just mentioning it while we're talking about it.
Yeah. He encountered an elderly man sitting on a bench in an area where we spend a lot of time, and he kind of broke off and engaged in conversation. And the tattoo is of a male and a female skeleton viewed from behind, sitting on the bench, leaning on each other. He brings roses and flowers to that bench in memory of his wife that he had lost. And Zach was so moved by that, demonstration of love and, commitment and connection.
I love this because the one thing that has struck me so much in seeing the materials of Zach that you've posted since his passing and as part of your process was how amazingly close he was as a young man to his girlfriend. Like, they just looked like they were going to be for life. So hearing you say that, I'm like, oh wow, like that all just fits with who he seemed like he would have been. And
they were. It's just a very special relationship, and it was as a father, knowing a young man who wore his heart on his sleeve and highly emotional, sitting with him when he cry about a breakup and just trying to just get him back on the horse and bring him out of it. To know that he had met the love of his life, as excited as he was the night he came home when they met. I stayed up. I was just up. It was literally 3 a.m, and he was so jazzed up. And from that moment on, it was them.
Yeah.
Whether or not they were in a bad way on a certain day or not.
You can see it in the video.
Yeah. So he really had he carried with him and demonstrated it in his art and in his actions with not just her, but his family, with me and others. That level of love, and knowing, it wasn't one person sitting alone. It was two, and that, they're not alone. They are in many ways together. And I think that that's a message of hope. It's something that I hope somebody can take a step back, look at objectively, and say, hey, you know what? It may not have been how I thought about this before I heard this podcast, but yeah, that's something that makes sense. And I think I can do that. I think I could accomplish just reframing one small aspect of grief.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know if we think about it in those terms enough with everything in life, but particularly when it comes to life itself and how we relate to it and its ending. The perspective that we hold on certain things, and I talk about this in my work with other people. I help people see things differently. I have a great talent for reframing people's perspectives, and one of the things that I notice is that people have a massive tendency in the modern world to just orient to the negative. It's probably due to what we watch on the news. There's no good stories on the news. It's just a bombardment of negative. So, you look at drama shows and everything else that we call entertainment, it's all negative. So then when something devastating like this happens to people, it's not intuitive to be more kind than focusing on the negative. I'm not saying don't focus on the negative. I'm not saying go and be positive. That would be ridiculous. If you're in a space, be there. But, just lightening the load by not only focusing on the negative and understanding the perspective of gratitude. And at least I got that time, and how amazing that I got to meet that person, and the experiences that you get to carry with you. And, there's so many gratitudes that can be taken away once the dust settles. It's just not easy to see it at the beginning.
And you lose nothing by doing that. I sense that, and not talking to everyone, that there's a feeling again of how will I be observed? How will the world view me?
And the fear that goes with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How will I be viewed? Will they think something's wrong with me? They can't get their head around how another person is surviving or thriving or breathing or able to contribute. And it all goes back to purpose. And I hope that, these are themes that you're going to hear over and over again, because they're very important. Purpose is something that did it for me. One prong in the fork. So it's important to not just for yourself, for surviving family members. I mean, Zach was, essentially he was, my only child by blood, and but there are other families that I am sensitive to, that, co-parents who are grieving on different trajectories, that the siblings that are left behind in some ways, how do they grieve? How do they come forward and express how they feel, not just for their lost sibling, but now how that has, reframed their relationship with their parents. So it's a huge dynamic, and not everyone is successful in navigating those waters.
It's funny you talk about purpose, because as you were talking about it, I was thinking to myself, well, for me it wasn't purpose. It was just giving myself the permission to stop and just be in the shit pit, basically. This feels terrible, and it is. It just is. It's an observation of something that is, and an acceptance of it. And it's funny because I was thinking all of these things, thinking it was a different process to yours. And then I thought, well, what got me out of that place, that shit pit? And it was purpose. So for those of you who don't know us personally, our little boy Teddy was a little miniature schnauzer, and just an amazing dog. I've never met a dog like him, and he understood every word, and he and I just became incredible friends. And then when I lost him, and also feeling responsible for losing him, I collapsed. But 3 months later, almost to the day, a couple of wonderful friends of ours, Sam and Haley, if you're listening, hey, they messaged us and they said, hey, we're not sure if this is inappropriate, but we found a dog. It has no collar, no chip. We're not sure if we should be messaging you or if this is a sensitivity, but you'll understand why when you see him. And then they sent through a photo, which for those who are watching the video podcast, you can see it on the screen. And I'm putting a little thing here saying which one was Teddy, our old dog, and the other one is Archie. And they said, do you want to come meet him? And both Margot and I looked at each other, and we were not in a place. We were having a bad day. And I was like, all I wanted to say was, we have to go and meet him. And then she was like, can we go meet him? And I was like, oh, thank God she said that. Oh, thank God she said that. And I was like, yes. I was like, yes, emphatic. And we jumped in the car and we went and met this dog. And this dog wanted nothing to do with a man. And I was a man. So he was all up with Margot. And I was like, no worries. Like, I'm sure it'll change over time. And he was skinny and scruffy. So if you are watching the video, you can see some great photos of the evolution of how he looked at the beginning. And, now if I'm not home, he gets a little sad. And then when I come home, he runs, and he has this toy called the chicken ball, because it was a little fluffy ball with a little chicken face on it. But it's his favorite. So when I get home, I'm like, where's the chicken ball? And he goes and gets the chicken ball. He knows which one it is. And he runs around. So now he actually just grabs it when I get home. So I come home and there's this dog with the chicken balls just running around. And, he's become the purpose. Very similar, I guess, to what Deanna has been, the realignment of the focus to the living world, to what's still here, to what's really important in my opinion, and probably the opinion of a lot of spiritual people over the ages, and it's love. We love those that have left, but at the same time, love, as we can deliver it in a physical sense, is intended to be shared with those who are living, who are having a tougher time. And one of the things I've gone through since losing Teddy is, if I see someone at a light, I have these dollars that I keep in my pocket, and I just roll it down and grab the right amount without looking, and then I check and see how much I'm giving them. And, it's just, these little things are much easier for me to do, because now I realize that, there's always going to be money. The law of bounty means that whatever you need will always come for you. So if you really vibrate with that law of bounty, and, like Jesus did, I'm not religious, but I know that he preached these things. And he said, you'll always be taken care of if you have faith, so give it away. So it's really that focus that's been the takeaway, is to just give away the love, make people's days better. That's a huge purpose for me.
Yeah. It's another way that we honor Zach when we actually went to get gas yesterday. He worked at the Wawa around the corner from us, at the gas pumps. And again, from the standpoint of our relationship and how we've always been reflecting off each other, teaching, learning, that never ends. And with each new realization of something, that whether it was something Zach said 5 years ago or just something that comes together, it's like, yep, he was right. We're always learning from each other. And one of the things that I learned, I've this is not, to impress anybody. I mean, we like to eat. We're foodies, and we spend time in restaurants, and we know, we've had friends who've worked in that, in service and working with food and restaurants, and it's not easy. And a lot of people aren't treated well. And that is, it's never been our style. But I never realized that, those things transcend restaurant, environments and scenarios. And so when I do get gas, even though they pump it here in New Jersey for you, you can't pump your own. And, every time, there's a tip out the window, it's, yeah. If I don't have cash, I usually keep a $5 on me just to make sure. And one time, I think I had a scratch-off lottery ticket, which Zach was very fond of, and it was in the car, and it was a winner. And I'm like, babe, just give him the ticket, explain to him he's not going to think we're crazy, and let him cash it. And I think he was thrilled about that. So the gratitude aspect of things, and doing, we're doing them. We're honoring them in these behaviors that we take forward, and giving openly and freely, and wishing somebody a good day, and all of that. It's very important.
I'd like to suggest that, just as a little takeaway for anyone who's, listening and doesn't always feel up. On the days that you feel down, like, just, find someone who you can see as down. And if you're down, it's easier to vibrate with down people, because you can see them, you're in the same place, it's easier to recognize. But rather than focusing on how do I fix me, just challenge yourself to go, well, how do I make that other person's day better? Because as we've just talked about, you always walk away feeling better. And if you go into it not from the knowledge or seeking of your own betterment, your own feeling better, but you just think, if I feel this crap, maybe I can make someone else feel better. It's such a good habit to get into the habit of, because it's a snowball. And if you do it more and more, it does get addictive. And after a while, it's very hard to be down. And if you're going through grieving, it's something you can do. It's a small technique, but I've found it to be very effective for me.
Yeah, yeah. And the impermanence of life subject, I mean, I know we might be running close to the end, and it is a subject that requires a lot more time and attention. I will say that it would be great
We've got time. I mean, we can
oh,
roll this
great,
for another few
great,
minutes.
great,
So yeah,
great,
yeah.
great. I think that we have friends. So another story. So I mentioned in the first episode, the day of the accident, and the gentleman who, put his hand on my shoulder and comforted me. He was with Zach at the scene. After we filmed and finished that episode, even and the day it was released, I had reached out to him. We had exchanged numbers, and he attended the celebration of life, and we had a really healthy, good hour-long conversation, and it was interesting that an insight that he shared that paramedics showed up quickly, and he asked them if he could put his hand on Zachary and pray on him. And they were, yeah, of course, and he did that. And as the conversation continued, and I asked more about him personally, because the role that he's played, and I mean, he's a part of our lives, and there's a love for him as well. He turned out that he was presented with a scenario where he did the same for his grandmother. She so happened to be in a place of peace in her life, and she said, listen, don't worry about me. I'm good. Just hold me, be with me. And he served that purpose. And he told me one other story where he was present with someone as they passed. And I said, did you ever consider that this maybe isn't a coincidence? And he's like, yes, I have. And so he's someone who came from a Catholic Christian, more of a right traditional background, but with the passage of time, it's you ask questions, you're a seeker, and there's something more through your own experiences, and he's at a place now where he's really looking around at how he can serve, how he can honor his higher path, and give his gift, and what that is. And I offered myself out to to talk him through that and those conversations, because just organically in listening, I don't know, I hear a lot of what people say. I hear everything people say, but I also hear a lot of what they don't say sometimes, and that's usually where I go when I'm trying to tease out and keep a dialogue going, not just for my benefit, but for theirs, because there's no better proof and there's no better realization moment for you than when you are saying the words, and then you say, wait, what did you just say?
Yeah. Are you listening? Yeah.
And you're your own best, you're your own best therapist in that moment, and they hear the message from heart. It's from heart, and it's powerful. And then that speaking the words helps them bring it in and manifest it into the 3D.
Yeah, it's funny because I can see maybe there's some sort of position, because there's a lot of people who end up in hospice and there's just no family around. I mean, there's so many people. If you speak to the nurses, and through what I went through with my mum, I found out about this in Australia, and there's just a lot of elderly who are lonely. They don't have people around them, and whether it's through actions of their own or not, you're still alone at the end of your life, and that's got to feel a little crappy. So maybe there's an opportunity for him to, do that kind of work, and it really is something special to be able to accompany people as they pass. It's a big purpose.
I hope that we can bring to the audience. We have people in our circle who do that kind of work, and we provide that loving service. They would say it's work, but I don't understand. I don't know much about it, what the requirements are. Right? Certainly, you don't have to go to 12 years of school like you were a doctor.
No.
But to just give access to someone who's willing to say, I am here. I'm showing up today, and I want you to take me to someone who may be living out their last hours or days. And what's the harm? Let me spend some time with them.
Well, I'm pretty sure they have cats for this in certain hospices. There's cats that they have in, I don't remember if this was in Australia or somewhere else, but I've read of these cats that they have in the hospices, and when somebody's very close to passing, the cat will go and sit with them, and that's how the practitioners will know. I'll have to research that. I'll see if, I guess, to be honest, after we record this, I may have already Googled it, and on the video it could have already played as I'm saying these words. But yeah, I remember there was an anecdote about that. And if you are listening to a podcast with audio only, then we'll put it into the show notes. We'll put some links down, so anything we mention, you can take a look at what I'm talking about. Unless, of course, I have imagined the whole thing and I'm crazy, and it doesn't exist.
Well, no. At least not today.
No, I'm pretty sure it happened somewhere. Anyway.
Yeah, are there pictures?
I think there was. I remember seeing the cat that sat on the bed, because they would always worry, not worry, but be like, "Oh, game on. We've got to focus over here," because the cat would know. And if I'm remembering correctly, it was a reasonable amount of minutes, like 10 or 20 minutes beforehand. The cat would be like, "Oh, this is happening." So it kind of gives you the sense that the cat can see, the other realmly energies, the guides on the other side readying the land strip so the soul can come over, or whatever it is. I don't know, but the cats just, they're astute. They know something.
And they were revered for a reason. Yes, everyone has a role to play, and we are all this one giant organism and energy, and we are what the universe is doing, and it's all connected. And in the midst of that, we do go through some trials, but we weren't placed here to suffer
unless we choose. That's what I've learned, is suffering is absolutely available to you should you so choose it. And sadly, a lot of us do, but I don't think it's required. There's other ways. So
yeah, that's an excellent point.
Yeah,
but try not to.
Yeah,
make different. Try and make different choices, and find what's right for you, and the burden and the cloud of grief it lifts. And there are days where you will laugh more than you cry, and be able to live differently in a world with without your loved one physically.
Yeah, what a great way to bring it out, Drew. As always, it's been amazing to hang out with you and chew the fat on the big topics.
I couldn't wait. Yeah, I couldn't wait today. I couldn't wait to see you. And there's a lot of stuff that I felt compelled. And I think that more and more as we do these, it's I feel build every morning to jump at it. So
exactly. And we are on episode 4 for you listening out there, but we have only just in the real world launched episode 1 today. So we're a little ahead in our recording schedule. So if you do want to drop things through, by all means, please jump onto our Anchor website, which is anchor.fm/unpacking-grief podcast. Oh, you know what? Come to our website. It is unpackinggriefpodcast.com. All the links are there, or on our Instagram at unpackgriefpod. And you can find everything from there. Our website and our Instagram. It's all right there. So
give us feedback.
We shouldn't do these at midnight. I'm like half groggy and tripping over my
yeah. But it's we do what we must, and I'm loving it, and I always value our time together.
Absolutely, and I value you, your perspective, your process, your experience, and love you, man.
I love you too, man.
See you on the next episode.
Thank you for joining us on Unpacking Grief. If this podcast is helpful to you, then please subscribe and consider helping others to find us by rating us 5 stars on your podcast platform of choice, and by sharing us with your friends and family directly. You can contact us and keep up to date on Instagram at UnpackGriefPod. If you'd prefer, video versions of all episodes are available on Spotify and YouTube. And if you have any questions, suggestions, or would like to find any of our recommendations, you can do so on our website, unpackinggriefpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.